Okay, so there's a good bit of information provided here. I'll let you work your way down through that as it is in your exam papers, but I'm just going to focus on the tree diagram here. So obviously just the key that they've given you up here, what each letter stands for, so rain, no rain. So there are two probabilities or two possibilities on a random day in Galway. There's the probability that it will rain and the probability that it won't. So both probabilities must add up to 1 as they are the only two outcomes, and whoever said the probability of rain in Galway is 1/3 or 1/3 hasn't lived in Galway. It's probably closer to 1. It rains nearly every day there. Now, if it rains, the probability of heavy traffic is a half. So the probability of no heavy traffic must also be a half. Because these two branches must add up to 1 because they're the only two outcomes. Likewise, if there's traffic, then the probability of being late or this probability here is the product of all the probabilities along the branch. So we multiply them all along the branch. So 1/3 by 1/2 by 1/6. So the probability that it will rain and that there will be traffic and that that person will be late is 1/12. Now, the probability that, so if we just follow on here, that has to be a half as well because these two must add up to a half. This is a fifth, so this must be 4/5 because they're the only two branches coming out of this choice or this option. And likewise, we fill in here. Again, this will be 1/5. This will be 4/5. Okay, and if this one here is 1/8, this one here will be 7/8. So I just show you that's 1/8 and 7/8. And again, we can follow these down. If this is 1/4, then this has to be 3/4. So all in all, that was it. It looks or appears to be maybe a very complicated question. Just having the understanding that all the probabilities can add up or should add up to 1 or must add up to 1 gets you out of that. Now to fill in these boxes then we have to multiply along the branches. So for this branch here, it's the outcome of this multiplied by this multiplied by this, which gives me 1/12. Now just fill them all in. So this will be 1/30, 4/30, 2/60, 8/60. Now I haven't simplified these down to their final answer. There's really, I mean I could, but I could do that in the next part, so just 42/96. So if you wanted then, so 4/30, that would be 2/15, 1/30. So 8 and 60, so that if you divide 4 in here, that would be 2/15 as well. 6/96, so 6 goes into 6 once, and 6 goes into 96 6 times, I think. Sorry, 16 times. And 6 goes into that 7 times, and 6 goes into this 16 times. Okay, so that's that first part done. Now the second question is just going to ask us some probabilities, so we'll try to keep that. So on a normal school day in Galway, find the probability of being late for school. Well, that's just all of these, anything that had him late. So this one had him late, this one had him late, this one had him or her late, and this one had them late. So this is just being late, so the sum of all those probabilities, so we can just add them up. So it was 1 over 12 plus 1 over 30 plus 2 over 60, or you could take the simplified ones if you want, plus 6 over 96. That will give you 17 over 80. So the probability of 17 over 80 of being late on a given day. Now the next part. On a random school day in Galway, find the probability that it rained in the morning given that you were late from school. Now this is slightly different. So we write this as the probability of being late. So late given that it rained. So we know that it rained. So this is the total. This is the probability of it raining on the bottom, basically, and this is the probability that you were late given that it rained. So we have to look at oh, apologies, this is the wrong way about. It's the other way about, sorry. I don't like me to make mistakes. Usually somebody would have spotted that in the class. So sorry, it's the probability. So given that you were late, what's the probability that it rained? Okay, so the way we write that basically is, if you think of this maybe as two sets, say that's the rain and that's late, the probability that it rained given that you were late is the probability of R intersection L over the probability of L. So basically, given that you were late, so let's just say, for example, that there were 10 days in which you were late, and 2 of them you were late when it didn't rain, 8 of them you were late when it rained, and I don't know, this was maybe say 20 or something. So the probability in this example here, and I'm just making up these figures, the probability that it rained given that you were late, well, given that you were late means that you're selecting out of the late set, and there are 10 things there, and how many of them were in the rain set? So you're selecting out of late. So given that you were late, what's the probability that it rained? So that will be how you would solve that. And that's just what we do here. The probability of R intersection L. So the probability that it rained, so the probability that you were late, the probability that it rained given that you were late. So if we look at these, so we're looking for the probability that it rained given you were late. So if we look at this first one, did it rain that day? Yes, it did. So we're going to take that one. Now you were late here. Did it rain that day? It did. You were late here. Did it rain that day? No. So we don't take that. This one, you were late. Did it rain? No. So I'm just going to highlight all the lates, because these are the figures that we need to add. Okay. So that's the bottom line. So that's the bottom line. So the probability that you were late is all of those things added together. So that will be 17 out of 80 when you add those ones together. That's all the lates. Okay. That's all the lates added together. And then if we go to the probability that it rained, given that you were late, it will be these two here, because it rained. If you look at this stem, it rained on both of those. So it'll be 1 over 12 plus 1 over 30 Now stick all of that into the calculator and you should get something like 28 over 51, or in a decimal form, 0.549. So it's an awkward enough little question, but the idea that it rained given that you were late means that you're only selecting out of the days that you were late. And this is just a little example here I did to maybe help explain the bigger one better. These figures are in no way related to the question.